In this tutorial, we're going to make a pet rock. So first we're going to import random so that our rock can do some interesting random things. And then we're going to make a class and we're going to call it rock. And it's basically just going to take in an initialization, so let's define that. And it's going to have self, name, and dialog. So of course we need to have the name and we need to have the things that the rock says. At first we'll just make it blank because rocks generally don't speak very much. So we'll say self.name equals name and self.dialog equals dialog. But we want this to be in sort of a list, so let's do that. And then we can make a function called talk. And it's just going to take in self and it's going to take in dialog. Or we can just say self and then print the dialog. Let's just do that instead. So we'll say words equals random.choice. And this just chooses a random item out of a list. And let's put in our self.dialog here. So it's just going to choose one of the random things that we choose for this rock. So let's make a new file, and we're going to make all of the different dialogues here. Now, rocks can say some pretty interesting things. So let's say dialog, and it's going to equal a list of all the things our pet rock is going to do. So let's make one, and let's say ... And let's make another one, and let's say this one's ... instead. And then let's make another one, and this one's going to have 3 dots, or 4, I mean, sorry. My counting's about as good as a rock. And then we're going to have maybe 5 dots. Maybe we should have a comma in here. Let's have a period, just 1 dot. Let's have maybe a semicolon. So it's really, sometimes rocks can be really creative. Sometimes they have interesting, rhythms in their silence. And let's have one that's like really long, because sometimes rocks, they do drag on a bit, And then we're just going to have 1 dot. And then we're going to have a bunch of spaces and then another dot, and then a bunch of spaces and then another dot. And then let's have /tab dot /tab. So that's going to put a interesting little bit of nuance into our rock. And then we're going to have one more for some more dots. So 3 dots here, 3 dots here, 3 dots here. And maybe let's have another one, and it's just going to be a space. Alright, so now that we have our dialog, let's go over here and let's import dialog. And we're actually going to have to import dialogs. And let's just, since we're only ever going to take this, let's just import dialog from dialogs. And then let's take this and create a new function. So let's say initiate dialog. And this is just going to take in self and then the dialog that we're going to want to have. And all this function is going to do is it's going to say self.dialog equals dialog. So it's just going to make all of the dialogues that we need. So let's make our rock, and his name is going to be Pete. So Pete the rock, and his name is going to be name. And then let's say Pete.initiate dialog, and it's going to be dialog. And then let's say Pete.talk. It's going to say that we can't actually import dialog from dialogs since dialog is just a list. So instead, I'm going to be actually smart. I'm going to remove this. I'm just going to say as dia. And then here I can say dia.dialog. Now if I press run, perfect. Oh, and of course we actually have to print our word. So let's say word, and this is just one word, not actually multiple. And we'll just print it. So let's press run. And now we've got 3 dots here. And we can press run again, and now we have 3 dots, but they're evenly spaced, much closer together. But this isn't really much of a dialogue. There's only one person talking. So let's make it so that us, the user, can actually talk to Pete. So let's make a game loop. And it's going to be a really interesting one because we have to have 2 things happening here. One is we have to say I equals input. And of course, we don't want the player to actually be doing anything cool. So we'll just say ... in here. And then the user will know, yeah, we're not supposed to do anything other than just saying dots. So, and then we can have Pete talking. And that's when the actually interesting stuff will be said, because the user can't possibly say anything as interesting as Pete can. And then we'll say while true. And we'll say game loop in here. Now, if we press run, we're able to put in our dialogue, so dot, and then the rocks dialogue, which is lots of dots, and we can just keep putting dots and more dots, and we can really have a real conversation with our pet rock. So this is like very important to really understand creatures that are way different than ourselves. And it can be really useful to make a rock dialogue simulator in Python. You can use this in so many different ways, for physics simulations to really just inner peace. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you in the next one.